Okay.
Okay, good morning and hello and greetings. And Marquita is talking first because Dr. Devshan Valentine is on the hot seat today. She will be fielding questions and answering them so we can hear more from her. I am Marquita, the co-creator of Feel Better, Do Better Together group coaching program. Hello, friend.
Hello.
How are you on your birthday?
I am doing well. I'm excited to be here with you and yeah, looking forward to seeing what this conversation brings.
All right. All right. I have a question. What helps or not helps? I always admire people with what I feel like is like a thrill seeker or a sense of adventure. I don't know if you
Mm.
see yourself that way, but I often see you just leaning over your growth edge and not just staying in the comfy space. What helps you to
Mm.
keep doing that with joy?
Mm. Well, I I have to say I wouldn't have described myself as that, like seen myself as someone who leans into adventure. Um, and I can recognize like I've moved a lot of times, I've left a lot of jobs. So one could see that as as adventure. And it's interesting too because just this morning um I was reading this beautiful card from this deck called Soul Flowers by Lisa Estabrook, I think
Mhm.
is her name. And it had this part about like life is an adventure, like it's meant to be like lived and loved. And I was reflecting on that exact question of, well, not your exact question, but the question of adventure. Like if I believed that life is an adventure meant to be lived and loved, like what do I see myself doing? What would be next? So so your question feels very kind of timely and synchronistic in that way. I think one thing that helps me, that keeps me going, honestly, is that I sort of naturally have a temperament that is afraid and that feels heavy, like emotionally. Like that's been more familiar to me, like a tendency towards depression and anxiety. And I don't like how that feels. Um, and there was a period of time where in my life where I felt like depression was just there, kind of crouching on my shoulder. I think Winston Churchill had a quote about that that resonated with me. Like it felt like it was always right there. And I was always just barely keeping it at bay or going under and then just getting it back like a little to give me a little space and then kind of going under. And so there was high motivation to find some other way to live because that felt crappy and it made me understand why people kill themselves. Like I got that. I was kind of too afraid to try out any of the ways that would work for that, but I get it. Like I get how you can be at that place because life can feel just so heavy and hopeless. So it's not a very sexy answer, but it is like it's
Okay.
really true. It was really about like, I don't like this way of living, so I want to try this other way. Um, and so I just started looking for more ways, trying new things. And the other thing I think that helped me, that was kind of a circumstance of my life, honestly, was being an army kid, being an army brat, and moving a lot as a kid. I think I like looking back, I see that as something that really supported me because I have this temperament that is sort of afraid of life, or that's kind of how I came into the world, it seemed like. I I could see how I could have been somebody who stayed very, very small, very local, very afraid to do anything different. But as a military kid, you move every year, every 3 years, like regularly. And so through those experiences, I learned that it's uncomfortable, but eventually you make new friends. Eventually you learn how to get places. Eventually, you get to know your new school or whatever it is. So I think that also was a help. It was like this lived experience of I can do this that supported me.
That's awesome. What's with all of that, what's been the biggest surprise, like the biggest joyful surprise in all of that? Like, and by joyful surprise, I mean I did not expect this to feel that good, but it did, or turned out that good.
Mm. Well, I'll tell you, I think there've probably been a lot of them. The very first thing that came to mind, and maybe it's because of the work that you and I do together being, so present with me in this moment, but um, I remember being in Los Angeles in Culver City. There are these people call them the Culver City steps, but it's these really big stone steps that go up a hill. And people use them for exercise. Like, so you go over there and there's people like playing music and like running up and down the steps, and there's people walking up and down the steps, and there's little kids and there's old people, and it is the biggest mix of people that I've ever experienced kind of anywhere. Like really a mix of races, ethnicities, and ages.
Mm.
Not so much of abilities, because it is physical abilities, because it is, going up steps. Definitely a range of physical abilities in terms of physical fitness, but
Yeah.
you couldn't go up and down in a wheelchair. So there wasn't that kind of diversity. But I remember having this moment of thinking about what a huge delight it is in my life that I have a racially mixed social life, group of friends, things that I read, and I mean, it's not as diverse as I want it to be, but there's so much more to explore. Um,
Yeah.
and just having this moment where I realize like people often think of entering into the realm of working for racial equity, increasing diversity in their communities, et cetera, as like work, like it's hard work that you're morally, you know, obligated to do, or you're pushing against having any moral obligation to do it as a white person in particular. And just having this moment of being like, I kind of started that way. I started with seeing how much injustice there was in the world, racial injustice in particular, that I hadn't seen before. But what it is delightful. Like,
Yeah.
yes, there's some hard work that we do. There's pain in, you know, diving in and being a part of where there is suffering, being a part of challenging um you know, change that needs to happen. But oh my gosh, the delight. I'm like, how does anybody not live like this? It's so delightful to know so many different kinds of people. It's so delightful to have my perspective on things expanded and challenged by other people's perspectives. It's so delightful to have the friends that I have. And I mean, it's just so delightful. So that was the first thing that came to mind. I'm sure there are many others, but that's one of them.
Oh, nice. What so you know, if you could encourage another white person, I guess, to maybe just take what could be a small step in terms of diversifying? Because I don't think that some people just lack relationships to be able to enter in, to go be curious about another culture. So what would be a low entry point for someone that you could offer who maybe just want to be, well, what do you mean there's another point of view? Where might I begin to find those?
Yeah. A couple things come to mind. So one is something that came from an LGBTQ plus diversity trainer, and a training that I was in, where they said, it was something like, it's easy to learn. And it was this light bulb moment for me, like, because we get in all this angst. Well, I don't know anything about, whatever group it is that's the other group. So in this case, we're talking about a white person. Well, I don't really know anything about Black people in their lives, and I don't know any Black people. And what am I gonna? We have Google now, and yes, like you have to be aware of what sources you're getting your information from, but there's a lot out there. There are people like you who are willing to share their stories with white people. There are people who have written books that we can read. There are people who have Instagram accounts that we can follow. Indigenous folks. There's a couple, like the matriarch movement. That was one of the things. One easy thing to do is just start by diversifying your feed. Like, what are the best podcasts by Indigenous folks? What are some of the best Instagram accounts to follow if you're a white person and you want to learn and hear from other perspectives? Like, you can find stuff in probably a 5 to 10 minute Google search that will expand your world and your perspective. So I'm so grateful for that that teacher that gave me that, like, aha of, oh yeah, it's actually not that hard. Like, we can learn. And that's a good place to start.
Nice. I appreciate all of your certifications and degrees and stuff. My most favorite of them is the one on play. How did you come to find play as a thing to study?
Oh my goodness. So it's kind of like what you said about, like, how do you like choose adventure with joy? It's like, well, because I found life to be hard and heavy. It's a pretty similar answer. Playfulness didn't come easy to me, at least not in ways that I think look recognizably playful. But I was in between jobs, careers, not sure. I had left being the director of a childcare program, and I was looking at possibly going to school, grad school, so that I could teach college. And this playground that I used to take my kids to, Smith Memorial Playground in Philadelphia, which I highly recommend to anyone who can get there. Go down the wooden slide. It's amazing. I was on their newsletter, and they had this little blurb, like, looking for a volunteer to do historical research. Well, for me, historical research is really fun. So I was like, ooh, that gives me something to do. I'm kind of, a little bored. Like, I think I was home with my kid, that it was summer. And so I called them up, and they sent me up to the third floor of this Playhouse mansion. It was built as a playhouse. And there were just all these, this is like a historian's dream, original documents, glass slides, photographs from the late 1800s to like the 1970s, I think. And it was unheated. No, it wasn't summer, because I remember being up there. Well, I don't know. I don't know the chronology, but at some point I remember being up there when it was cold and it wasn't heated and thinking, and I'm looking through these documents and thinking, I'm the right kind of weird to do this historical research because I'm having fun. Not everyone would think it was fun to be combing through these old documents. So really I came to play through historical, scholarly, nerdy research. And then, but because my historical, scholarly, nerdy research was about focused on play and playgrounds, I started to be known as a play expert. And
Oh,
I thought that was hilarious because I'm like, I'm a play expert who really doesn't know how to play. But then that has expanded in my own life into, I think, my personal growth, like training as a life coach, training as a Koya teacher, which is a movement practice, training as a sex, love, and relationship coach, therapist. In all of those spaces, there's been more and more of an awareness for me, a growing awareness of the importance of play for all of us in our creativity, in our coming alive, in our allowing life force energy
mhm.
to move through us. Like it's naturally a playful state. Like as humans, I think we are naturally playful. And I mean, science even, like in studying play, part of what I learned is the fact that we have small teeth
Mhm.
indicates that we stay young in a way that like
Okay.
other primates don't. And that playfulness is part of that. That other primates play when they're young, but they
Mhm.
don't so much play when they're older. They play and then they become adults and they don't so much play when they're older. But we are made to continue playing. We are made to
Yeah.
continue in that kind of creative, playful state. And so I've been practicing it. I've been
Mhm.
practicing playing. It's one of those growth edges for me. It's actually a growth edge for me to lean into playfulness. I'm a typical first child, good girl, good student, responsible, etc. The playfulness um, is more of a choice for me. And I think that that's also something that I was reflecting on this morning. If it's okay if I reflect a little more here.
Oh, please. Yes. Yes.
I was reflecting this morning on how, like, being in a body, especially like enjoying being in a body, whether that's sex or movement, dance, that has not come easy to me. Um, it hasn't been natural. And playfulness is similar. Playfulness in my body, playfulness in other ways. And I was thinking this morning, like, that's kind of like that's so weird. Like, why, why would I kind of be put on this earth and have so much trouble with these things if they're so
Mm.
important? And if I'm, kind of supposed to be sharing that, like spreading that, right? Because I mean, our program's called Feel Better, Do Better for a reason.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
we actually believe you can feel better while doing really important, hard work in the world, and that's needed. It's necessary, and play is part of that. And so, what was hitting me this morning was like, when things come really easily to you, to a person, it can be really hard to share it with someone for whom that thing is difficult. And so I think it is part of like part of what I offer the world is that being happy hasn't come easily to me. Being playful hasn't come easily to me. Dancing has not come easily to me. And I'm living in those things so much more now.
Mm.
Um, sex hasn't come easily to me. Thank you, really conservative Christianity, for making that extra hard. And I love many, many Christians, and I got many wonderful things out of Christianity, but it did not help me enjoy sex. Um, So, and there's playfulness involved there too, right? So all of that to say, these areas that didn't come easily to me, I think make it more possible for me to empathize with people who are struggling, to be optimistic, to be hopeful, to have fun, to enjoy life, and to share like actual steps and practices that I know can help because I'm using them all the time. So you can actually practice being more playful. It sounds kind of like I don't know, paradox. You can practice having more fun with sex and get better. like you can practice. So it's kind of back to that. You can learn. There's so many things that we can learn that we think of as things that you only have or you don't. Like you're born optimistic or you're born pessimistic. You can't really help it. You're born like good at dancing or you're not. You can't really help it. Well, yeah, I'm not going to be like a dance performer on a national stage, most likely. But boy, I have been able to learn to dance. I have been able to learn to enjoy dancing. There's so many things we can practice and try and get better at, including feeling better, including feeling happier, including being playful. So that was a long answer, but I'm kind of excited about it. Like sharing for people, two people especially that like think they're kind of doomed to be serious and responsible and find life to be heavy. I think there are gifts in all of that. There are gifts in taking life seriously, in paying attention to suffering, in working to make the world better. There are gifts in that. And it doesn't have to always feel heavy and hard. You can learn. You can learn.
I love it. I love it. I have one final question. As you go into this next year,
I'm just noting, sorry, a little door opening here because my husband's coming to visit me for my birthday.
That's why it's the last question.
Because we're not in the same. Oh, he's bringing me special coffee too. Let's just let that happen.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Okay.
Greetings.
Not yet. We're doing a little interview, so we'll just. I'll be out in a few moments. We're living in two separate cities right now, so I requested that he come visit me for my birthday. So.
That is so wonderful. So, last question. Since it's your birthday, what are you most looking forward to? Because out of your last answer, I hear a recognition for change and a desire for it, and experiencing the abundance that has come from that in your life. What can you generate, or where do you feel generative curiosity and excitement towards learning and playing with for this next year?
That's a great question. So generative excitement about learning and playing with for this year. I actually am really excited and scare-sided sometimes, scared and excited. There's, how do I put this into words so that it's not 9,000 hours long? Dave and I are on an adventure. I'm on an adventure, but we're on a new adventure together. He's joining as co-owner of the company, Thriving for Equity. We also just bought a house and are going to be living in a multi-generational household with my 90-year-old mother-in-law and our 21-year-old son. We are on a journey with money that we've been on for a long time, but like this exciting journey of figuring out how you create like a really thriving business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we're on a journey in our relationship. We've been together 30 years, married 28 years. So there's body, business, and relationship are like the three big themes for this coming year for me. Um, and I'm really curious about what it's going to be like. What my sense is, I'm being called into an interesting space, especially given what I was just talking about. I'm being called into a little bit of the day to day, or a lot of the, how do I integrate like exciting vision, you know, taking a big leap adventure kind of energy
Mm-hmm.
with showing up day to day, doing push-ups, literal push-ups, because my arms want to be stronger, doing practices that will enhance my connection with my own sexuality, my connection with Dave sexually, my love for him, like doing kind of, there's actually just, you just need to show up and practice some things that feel awkward. And sometimes it's working through deep stuff. Sometimes it's just making time, whatever. Like it feels like a time in body, business, and with Dave of, can I show up regularly, consistently, anticipating the delayed gratification,
Mm-hmm.
which is a very different kind of adventure than the, we're leaving Philadelphia and going to California, like we've done kind of a lot of that.
Yes.
And it's fun and there's like a high to it, but it seems like now I'm curious about, okay, what's the adventure available in the integration of big risks, big passion, big vision, and working it out in the day to day consistently when I don't feel like it. Yeah, in all the little ways.
All right. I appreciate that. Do you want to give your birthday blessing to yourself for next year?
Ooh, okay. I take that challenge. Let's see. Ah, I bless myself with delights hidden in the everyday, like the smell of rosemary and noticing light coming through trees and reflecting on my wall, and so many other delights that are available that I miss. I bless myself with sight to see them, ears to hear them, the ability to taste them, to smell them, to touch them. I bless myself with increasing awareness of the abundance that surrounds me and flows through me, of how the divine is in me as well as in nature and all the places where I so clearly see it. I bless myself with incredible, delightful, like deeply loving, intimate connection with Dave, with my kids, with friends, relationships that are better than I could have imagined in the past. I bless myself with financial thriving that
Yay.
comes by magic, but like by a magic that shows me that I can be trusted and that I can show up and that I can be part of it. So that kind of delayed gratification, like I bless myself with the strength to keep showing up so that I find out that I am trustworthy.
Oh, amen. Amen, sis. As it will be, so it is today. I invite you to take it with you like it's in your pocket now. Enjoy your birthday and your boo.
Thank you.
All right.
Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.